Today we're taking time with Caitlin Maxwell, who is over our BIPP program here at Family Services of Southeast Texas. So take a moment with me as we go through some of the ins and outs of our program and learn some more. So thank you so much for taking time with me today, Caitlin. I really do appreciate that. Let's start with just some of the brief history of the BIPP program. How long has the program been going?
So here at Family Services, our program has been running for decades. The BIPP program initially in Texas was founded in 1989 by the 71st legislation, and at that time they initially funded the first 15 BIPP programs across the state.
Wow, so the BIPP program in the state has been running for a very long time and backed by legislation. That is incredible.
Yes,
and why was the BIPP program started?
So here at Family Services, it was created as, we're a domestic violence shelter, so we respond to the aftermath of this domestic violence. So this was created to kind of combat those issues before they happen, to intervene and prevent that violence from happening.
Yes, I always love it when programs are proactive, not reactive, in response to things in the community. So I love that about this program. What is the main goal that BIPP is trying to accomplish?
So our BIPP program is a psychoeducational program. Its goal is to enhance the safety of family violence victims and the children that are kind of caught up in the middle of that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So now we're going to kind of just break down some of the operational pieces of the BIPP program and how it works. So how does someone sign up or start the BIPP program? How do they get started in that?
So most of the time our clients are court ordered, either through probation, through a protective order, or through CPS. So after that court order is mandated, the referral source typically emails us a referral form and the kind of pieces that we need to get that intake started. Once we get that, we typically call the client, schedule their appointment about a week out or so, depending on our schedule and their schedule. And they'll come in, they'll bring their ID, the fees, do a 2-hour intake with us. We get to know their background history, their childhood history, kind of what happened to lead to us, and just get to know them in general to see which group might be the best fit.
Gotcha. So it's just kind of like a welcome in the door kind of intake meeting.
Exactly.
And I do want to ask, is it only court ordered that someone can come to the program, or if someone says, I think that I have a problem with this, can they volunteer and just sign up for the program? How does that work?
So they can volunteer. Now most of our clients are court ordered, but we would love to see more volunteers to prevent them from getting that court mandated order to where they have to come see us. They stop it before it gets to that point.
Yeah. So definitely if, you're seeing the patterns in your behaviors, give Caitlin a call before it gets to the court level.
Exactly.
How often do you meet with a client?
So our initial intake is done one time, and it's about, like I said, 2 hours long. Once we finish that, we put the clients into a group, and they'll be in that group for ideally 18 weeks total for 2 hours for each group session. Now they're allowed for unexcused absences, so it may be about 22 weeks by the time they finish, but ideally it would be in 18 weeks.
Gotcha. And then also, I do want to ask, is this just for men, or are there women also in these meetings? Kind of give me the idea of how that breaks down.
So we have 3 men's groups currently, and then we have a separate women's group that meets 1 time a week. Our women's group focuses a lot on kind of the dynamics of the domestic violence. What does it look like, the effects it has, but also it focuses on the resistive violence, which is a lot of what our women, the violence that they used to get to here was resisting the violence that they were experiencing.
Oh, okay. And then and you mentioned the intake and then the group appointments. So the intake, is that a solo appointment and then it's solely group appointments, or what does the meetings look like? Kind of give us an idea of what the scope of that is like.
So their initial intake appointment is singular, just with us, one-on-one type thing. After that, it's all group sessions. There can be up to 15 men in the groups at a time. And it just helps build with accountability. They're having to be accountable to themselves and these other group members who are getting to know them, their story, and can kind of pinpoint when maybe they're not being so accountable.
I see. And is there a treatment plan or a goal achievement that they have to acquire? Kind of tell me how that is set up.
So during the intake, we have their treatment plan set up, and we focus on 10 different goals. Some of the big ones are to develop and improve accountability and responsibility for their actions, and to also develop self-awareness about their actions and the consequences of their actions, specifically to the domestic violence that they may be using.
I see. And then in your experience, how do you think programs like BIPP are affecting our community?
I think that they have a profound effect on our community. We help the batterers to understand their behaviors as a means of controlling their victims. We focus on educating about the nature of the family violence, changing their beliefs and attitudes, and we give them tangible steps to be able to live a nonviolent and non-threatening lifestyle from that point on. A lot of our BIPP clients, when they come in, they're kind of resistive. They're being labeled, a batterer by the court system. Some of them may have trauma from their past, and that's the behavior they've learned. There's different aspects that go into it. And while we don't justify it, we understand that and take that into account. But a lot of the men, once they do successfully complete, they acknowledge that, they didn't come in with an open mind at first, but once they got to that point where they were open and willing to learn, that they learned a lot, and that they realized they did have these coercive, controlling behaviors that do lead to the domestic violence we see so much in this area.
So you guys are allowing a space in which, allows for them to have a lot more self-reflection and what their behaviors is attributing to the violence that they're having in their families, whereas beforehand they wouldn't have had that space and taken the time to do so.
Exactly. We do a lot of self-reflections, both in group and kind of homework assignments, if you would, where they reflect throughout the week on maybe the certain topic or a certain question to ask themselves. And we really challenge their deep-rooted beliefs that they have about the family dynamic and the man's role in the relationship.
I also want to touch on, because you were talking about the trauma and the things that, in their past that also comes in that baggage that comes with a batterer. So do you guys have like a rating system that you guys use in the intake? Or is it just all kind of just historical information that you use in helping them go through the program?
So we more do a historical approach. Like, we ask things about their childhood. Was there abuse? Did they witness domestic violence themselves? Was there CPS involvement as a child? We also ask about their current situation. Do they have a relationship with their parents now? Is it a good relationship? Is it bad? How's their relationship with their kids? Have their children witnessed the domestic violence that goes on? And we use all these things to factor into how are we going to help them break through and see maybe their problematic behaviors that they have, to be able to make that family dynamic function healthily from that point on.
And does this program, do you often, or do you at all, refer out to other resources such as family counseling or individual counseling, marriage counseling? Do you guys do those referrals from this program?
Yes, I actually recommend a lot of our guys to individual counseling. We also may make referrals to substance abuse treatment if we see maybe there could be a drinking issue or maybe a drug issue going on concurrently. I've recommended family counseling, marriage counseling. We may refer out to anger management if we feel that might be a more appropriate approach. So we do make a lot of different referrals.
Right, so it's not just the batterers intervention program that we're doing here. We're also trying to just promote a healthy family environment, an individual all the way around. It's not just addressing one pinpoint. That's awesome. That's so awesome. And is there anything that you think could be added in addition to the BIPP program that, could just help our efforts in combating family violence?
I definitely do. So to play off of the last part, the individual counseling for the men, we see a lot of the men come in where they witnessed it as a child. Their father was abusive to their mother, and that's the behavior that they learned, and they've taken that to their adult relationships. So I think that could really help impact the trauma that they do have and help them break through it in a healthy manner rather than repeating those behaviors. I also think that counseling for their kids, if they have children that are involved, is crucial to help break that cycle of domestic violence because it's such a repetitive and vicious cycle. Male children who witness domestic violence as a child are 10 times more likely to be abusive to their partner as a grown-up. They have higher rates of PTSD, aggression, learning disabilities. The female children who witness it, they're 6 times more likely to be sexually abused. They're more likely to be a victim themselves. And so getting them into therapy and kind of addressing that trauma that they've seen it's crucial so that we don't see them as a grown-up, that we get to see them as healthy, thriving citizens, and they don't have to come to our services here in 30 years.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point in that we're trying to break generational cycles here as well, not just intervene in this one instance that led them here. We're trying to break that cycle and put them on a healthy cycle as a whole, and I applaud that so much about our program. So I do want to talk, because I am a numbers person, and I know there are a lot of folks out there who are just really driven by statistics and numbers. So if you could just share with us some of the statistics that you have about the program, and the successes that you have seen in the program.
Yeah, so since June of 2020, we have had 77% of our participants who come in finish successfully.
That's great.
For those who complete certified BIPP programs, they're staggering numbers that show the rates of non-offense again in the future. So for them to be rearranged for any type of crime, 47.7% who did complete a program, they were arranged in the future at some point for a crime, compared to those who did not complete a program was 83.6%. So that slashes that number just about half.
That's amazing.
Yes, to be rearranged for any violent crime, 64.2% of those who didn't complete a program like this were rearranged for that, versus 33.7% who completed one were rearranged, which again, that slashes that number in half. And if there's a protective order issued, which a lot of the times when we see these domestic violence cases, there is at some point a protective order issued. 17.4% of those who did complete a program ended up violating it, versus those who don't complete a program, it was 41.8%.
Wow, that's drastic. That's really drastic.
It definitely is. I think a lot of it has to do with our focus on the accountability, for making them be accountable for their actions and their consequences, not only in regards to their relationship, but their life in general. A lot of what we teach can be applied to just about every area of their life. It doesn't have to be solely the relationship. So I think that makes a drastic difference in their lives.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Well, do you have anything else that you would like to add to our discussion today?
I think that covers it. If anybody needs services like this, if they've been court ordered or they volunteer, they can contact me at our main number, or by email.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking time today to discuss this program with us. It is a very beneficial program for our community. And like Caitlin says, if you or someone you know does seem to have some issues with some anger and some batterers issues, by all means, please do call our office here at Family Services of Southeast Texas. That number is going to be 409-833-2668. And remember, you don't have to wait until there's a court order or a protective order in place. If you see an issue, by all means, reach out to our office and we'll be glad to help you out. Thanks again for your time today, Caitlin. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.